Hi everyone, it's Jan and I have several projects to share with you today, all using this really fun red rubber stamp set called Coffee Loves. It's by Little Blue Button Stamps, and Olga, who is the owner and designer for Little Blue Button Stamps, asked me to be a guest designer this month, and I have had the best time. It has so many great little sentiments and design elements. You can do so much with it. I know you're going to want to get your hands on this really cute stamp set, so I'll give you some information down in the description box below and at the end of the video. But first, let me show you my projects. Loved coloring up this fun girl. Really great for an office project, and you can see I used that coffee cup element from the stamp set to create a background. Just use some white pigment ink, and then to make that kind of glossy embossed look, I just colored it in with my glue pen. Excellent way to add just a tiny design element to something, but it gives, I think, a pretty big punch. Now, my second project, I did a hang tag for a little gift I'm taking to a friend who loves mocha frappuccinos, and so I just made a tag that slips over the top of the bottle and colored her up with some kind of sassy greens and pinks. I can't seem to not put her in a little bit of lime green. And my third project, I wanted to try my hand at coloring with colored pencils on craft paper, and I think she ended up okay, but before I do a tutorial for you all on it, I want to get a little more practice in. I had a little more trouble getting shading than I would have liked, so I'll come back and do another tutorial on that. But I did, because this particular coffee themed stamp set seemed to be crying out for a project where you could actually also smell the coffee as well. I'm going to show you how I did that, and you can do this same sort of technique with just about anything. Now I'm using brown embossing powder, but you could use clear embossing powder and add in other kinds of flavorings and that sort of thing. Jello, sugar-free Jello, is one of the best ways. You can add a scent to it, strawberry, any of those fruits. You also can use like sugar-free Kool-Aid. You don't want anything with sugar in it, because when you heat emboss it, it's going to burn and you're not going to get the scent that you want. Now you can see I'm crushing up some instant coffee, and trust me, the only reason why I have instant coffee is that my grandmother feels like it's not really coffee unless you put a spoonful of it in your cup and pour hot water over it. So for her, I always keep some extra instant coffee. I know those two words just should not be together, should they? Okay, so here's the recipe or the formula. It's a 2-to-1 ratio. For whatever the scent is that you're adding, you want 1 portion of that to 2 portions of your embossing powder. And I'm clearly making a whole lot more than I'm going to need, but I fell in love with this, and I'm going to do a lot of these scented, because even if you don't like coffee, most people like the smell of coffee. So it was a fun one to have as a scented embossing powder, and you put it in a sealed bag, you'll do fine. So I felt like for this background, I was going to do kind of a plaid, and I'm using several stripes stamps from this paper tray ink background set. And here's what I'm doing first. I'm only going to use the scented embossing powder on this wide stamp right here, but I'm going to go ahead and build my plaid background pattern using these stripes. And even if you were wanting to do everything that you if you were going to do all your stamping with the scented embossing powder, I still would stamp first, put your pattern down, put the image down that you want. Make sure you've got really good solid coverage, particularly if you're doing like the clear embossing with a scented flavor, of like a fruit flavor or something, you want to make sure that your image is good and clean and crisp with your ink. And then you can add embossing over it. I felt like this wide stripe would be plenty for that. And I'm making sure that it's good and dry, and then I'm using my embossing buddy to cover the whole area. And now I'm going back with my Versamark because it's going to give me the best embossing surface to hold this embossing powder to. And you have a lot of open time with it. That's the other reason why I love using my Versamark or an embossing ink specifically for things like this. If you're just using your regular dye ink or something, you kind of need to emboss as you go because it'll dry. But the Versamark, I could get the whole thing done. And you're going to see, because the coffee is not as finely, even though I pounded it pretty good, it's still not as fine of a powder as the embossing powder. And so again, that's why you want to do that the stamping first, because you just aren't going to get 100% coverage because your coffee is taking up some of that. Now I'm adding one other detail, and that is just using my Versamark to go in and fill in some of those stripes. It gives just another tone to it, and I'm telling you, it smells like wonderful coffee. I mean, how cool is that going to be to open up a card with that aroma coming out? Just totally cool. When I actually gave this to my friend, I actually put a couple of coffee beans down in the envelope as well. You know, when you have a theme, you might as well go with it, right? So I'm just using a ticket. I believe this is from, I want to say Memory Box. It was a layered ticket die to put her in, and just popping her up a little bit. And I think it's a really cute card, and you just totally goes with the flow to have that scented. These projects were really fun to work on for Olga. This is a great stamp set. She releases new red rubber stamps the first Thursday of the month, and she releases new digi stamps on the last Friday of every month. And they are so cute. You have got to go check them out. If you are interested in the rubber stamps, you can get those at ccdesigns.com, and you can get this month's and previous months there. And they're great, deeply etched red rubber. If you are interested in her digital stamps, go to lbbstamps.com. She sells them there for download, and you can get started right away. I want to say a special thank you to Olga for inviting me to be a guest designer for her this month. I had so much fun working on all of these projects. And you know what? It really reminded me of something that I want to do more of, which is when you get a new stamp set, try making several projects with it, because once you get in that mode creatively, it spurs on further creativity. So it was great doing this. I know I'm going to have fun using other images by Olga very soon. And I want to thank you, my viewers, for coming and hanging out with me again. If you are new to my channel, please subscribe. That's the best way to find out when I have a new project or tutorial to share with you. And follow me on Instagram, Pinterest, Facebook, and Twitter, because that's where I can kind of give you a hint as to what I'm working on at the moment. In fact, I've started using a hashtag OMDRN, which stands for on my desk right now. I just take a picture of it while it's a work in progress and can show it to you, and maybe if you're needing a little creative inspiration, it'll spur an idea, and then I'll come back and do the tutorial or whatever later. Anyway, thank you for joining me today. I had a blast working on this project, and I hope that you'll check Olga's stamps out because they are just fun to color up. I'll see you soon. In the meantime, be sure and save some time for creative play.